Hi guys, this is Mr. Choke. I hope you all are well. In this morning's lesson, we're going to be doing inventory valuation, and then we're going to be focusing from the June 2024 NSC supplementary exam. So here they're saying the information relates to Celcine Ltd. Nadine is the Chief Executive Officer. The financial year ends on 29 February 2024. Celcine Ltd buys and sells two models of cell phones. CEO cell phones Clio is more expensive, while Bruma is a basic and cheaper phone. So, which means that Clio is we can take it as as more like when you're looking at brands like iPhone, Clio will be regarded as a Pro Max, and then Bruma will be those just entry models. Okay. They're saying all stock is valued using the specific identification method. So meaning that they are going to use specification identification method to value their stock. All goods are sold for cash or on credit. So meaning that they could be using both cash or credit. They are not really that specific because for now that is not necessary. Okay, I think there were no units missing during the year due to effective internal control measures. So in other words, they are telling you here that there is no missing stock. So there's no missing stock. Okay, and then number one, they're saying in addition to the two models of cell phones currently being sold, the directors are investigating whether a third model, Lychee, should be imported from the USA. And then they're saying that the first batch to be ordered would consist of 300 Lychee phones. See information A. Calculate the expected cost price of one Lychee phone in rands per unit. So here they want us to calculate how much it will cost for us if we were to buy those Lychee phones. So we're going to go to information number A. So information A here, they are saying that unit price in terms of dollars is 208, and then number of units that they want to buy is 3,000, and then exchange rate tells us that $1 is equivalent to 17 rand 50 cents, and then customs duty, they are saying that it's 12%, and then total shipping cost is going to be 303,600. So now remember all these things, guys, they are going to calculate our cost price of that particular phone. Okay, so we are going to start with the basics. Remember, firstly, you must consider that some of the things like your shipping costs, for example, like this one, it is based on 300 units. So it will be correct for you to make sure that you work out on those 300 units and then you divide at the last to get the cost per unit. So we are going to start here. Each unit costs around $280, and then remember, $1 is equivalent to 17 rand 50. So to get this right, it means we are going to say 17 rand 50 multiply by 280, and then we multiply by 300. Okay, so we will do it like that. So remember, I said we are going to say 7. Okay, I think this is a wrong answer book. Okay, so on that vet part, we are not doing that vet part. We are only focusing on the inventory, right? So it means that we are going to say 17 rand 50 multiply by $280, and then we multiply by 300 units. Okay, so that's the first part. So we're going to say we are going to say 17 rand 50 multiply by 280, and then multiply by 300, which gives us 1,470,000. Now we need to remember something very important that they said. They said that we have customs duty. Remember, customs duty, they said is 12%. So it means we are going to get that customs duty now. So our customs duty will be as follows. We will say 1,470,000 multiplied by 12 over 100. Let's see how much we get. So 1,470,000 When you take it and you multiply by 12, divide by 100, it gives you 176,400. And then the other part, remember, we have shipping costs. So in terms of shipping costs, what we need to do, we need to check if it was already calculated for us. They said our shipping costs amount to 303,600. So our shipping cost is equals to 303,600. So we'll have it here as 303,600. So the total here before we divide is going to be as follows. So we're going to say 1,470,000 plus 176,400, and then plus 303,600, which gives us a total cost of 1,950,000. So we'll take this 1,950,000 and then we divide it by 300. So 1,950,000, when you divide it by 300, it's going to give you 6,500. So it means each unit will cost you 6,500 when you consider your customs duty, your shipping costs, okay, and then also take into consideration the effects of the exchange rate. Next, they are saying that calculate the total value of closing stock of Clio and Bruma phones on 29 February 2024 using specific identification method. Now, what you need to understand about specific identification method is that the unit price is the same, okay, for that particular model. So we're going to firstly start with Clio. So when we look at Clio, for Clio, we need to check how many units do we have on hand. So if you check number of units on hand for Clio, it's a question mark. So that means that's where you need to start, right? So we are going to start and say 270 plus 2,265, okay? And then we don't get anything about any return on this. So that's where we're going to start. 270 plus 2,265. So we're going to do it there. 270 plus 2,265. And then we are going to minus 2,108. So we'll minus 2,180 so that we can get the number of units on hand. So it means we're going to say 270 plus 2,265, we minus 2,180. Okay, so it gives us 355. So we are going to check again. So remember, at the beginning we had units on hand at the beginning of the year 270. We plus what they purchased, because if you remember, they did not return anything, so it will be plus what they purchased, we minus what they sold. Okay, so it means we're going to say 270 plus 2,265, you minus 2,180, because those are the units that so the units here is 355. Now when you check here, the cost price per unit is 8,000. So it means to get the cost price, you'll say 8,000 multiplied by 355, which will give you 2,840,000. Okay, so that information will enter here to say 355 units multiplied by 8,000. Remember, it gives us the answer here is 2,840,000. So that part is covered. Then we move to Bruma. Now, in terms of Bruma, this is what they are saying to us. In terms of Bruma, I think we are given the number of units on hand. I'm just not sure. Okay, yes, it's given as 920. So it means you are, because they didn't return anything, you are just going to say 920, you multiply it by your cost price of 2,500. Okay, so it means you are going to say 920 multiplied by 2,500, and then so let's see how much do we get. So 920 multiplied by 2.5, it gives us 2,300,000. Okay, so now remember, there's no return here, there's no return that took place. So you just take your 920, you multiply it by 2,500, and then it gives us 2.3. Okay, so at the end we are going to add the 2 here. So if we say 2,840,000, and then we say plus 2,300,000, is going to give us 5,140,000, and then you'll have your full 6 marks for this. I hope this makes sense. And then the next part, they're saying that calculate the average stock turnover rate for Clio phone for 2024. And then so when you do this, guys, you need to remember your formula. Remember the formula. What I can advise is that, remember, for your stock turnover rate, you must remember how's your stock turnover rate like, and then also how's your number of the stock on hand, because mostly most learners confuse those two. Okay, so in doing this, it will help you to just make sure that you remember the formula for this. What I noticed is that when you do stock turnover rate, all you need to remember is that stock turnover rate does not have the number of days. Okay, and then the one with number of days stock on hand is the one that has got uh, the days in the formula. So you should not struggle as long as you are given the answer, the formula sheet for that. So just make sure that you quickly know how to differentiate between the two when they are given, guys. I believe it will really, really, really help you. It will make life easy for you. I hope what I've said makes sense for you guys. So please make sure that you prepare based on what I said. Okay. Now, the other thing that is very important is to know how to identify your formulas, guys. Remember, in terms of formula, I said, because they say calculate the average stock turnover rate for the Clio. Here they didn't say use closing stock, they said use the average. So it means that for us to be able to calculate stock turnover rate, our answer should end with the word times. Okay, so it means for us to do it, the formula for that, for stock turnover rate, says that cost of sales divided by average stock. Okay, so it means we're going to have cost of sales over average stock. Now, if you look at this, guys, when you look at the information, they gave you the cost of sales, right? And let me just check which item are we focusing on. So we are focusing on Clio. So if you look at this, they gave you your cost of sales is indirectly hidden. So this is your Clio. So we just need to get the difference between these two. So let's say 24 million 416,000, and then you say minus 6,976,000, 6,976,000. It gives me 17,440,000. So it have your cost of sales is 17,440,000, and then So we can also check how many units have been sold just to get an idea if it will be the same. Remember, number of units sold is 2180. So let's say, see if we say 2180, and then we multiply it by the cost price, which is 8,000. So it will give us the same fee, right? So if the cost of sales is not given for specific identification, you just take unit cost, multiply it by the number of units that were sold. Remember, you're going to look at the product that they are talking about. So our cost of sales is 17,440,000. So it means we'd say 17,440,000 divide by 1 over 2 into, we need to check what was the closing stock for Clio from the term before. So last year, the value of closing stock for Clio was 2,160,000. So it means we'd have 2,160,000, and then we say plus for this year, the value of Clio is 2,840. So you'll plus it with 2,840,000. Okay, and then let's see what answer we will get. But I suggest that you first get the average of the two at the bottom. So if you say 2,160,000 plus 2,840,000, 2,160,000 plus 2,840,000, it gives us 5 million, right? And then when we say 5 million divide by 2, it gives us 2,500,000. So we're getting 2,500,000. So if you say 17,440,000 divided by 2,500,000, it gives us 6.98 times. So we'd have 6.98 times when you round off to 2. Okay, if they say round off to 1, it will be 7 times. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. Now let's go and look at the next thing that we are expected to answer. Next, they are saying that the directors took decisions to adjust the markup on Clio and Bruma phones for the 2024 financial year. Explain how these decisions impacted on the gross profit and the cash flow of the company, as well as on the stock turnover rate of each model over the past 2 years, quote figures and trends. So what we need to do here, guys, we need to do a comparison. Number one, we are going to look at the gross profit. Our desire is that we need to check whether it increased or decreased, because that's how we are supposed to answer it. Okay, so if you look at this, last year our gross profit was 5,900,000. This year is 6,976,000. So it means it increased from 5,900,000 to 6,976,000. So we need to tell them that. So we will say gross profit profit increased from 5,900,000 to 6,976,000 to 6,976,000. And then also we will need to check the stock turnover rate, right? So the decision, remember, here what we can do, we also need to check. Remember, they adjusted the markup. What they did, when you look at this, you will see that markup was decreased from 50% to 40%. So we also need to know that markup. Maybe you can use this as your second option. So we can say markup was decreased from 50% to 40%. Okay, so because you can see that's the decision that they take. Remember, they want you to give two answers. Right now, let's look at, so it's 2 marks each, 2 marks each. So let's look at stock turnover rate. What happened to our stock turnover rate? If you check right now, stock turnover rate is 6.98 times. So in we're going to write here 6.98 times. So stock turnover rate increased from 4.4 times to 6.98 times. So we will say that stock turnover rate increased from 4.4 4.4 times to 6.98 times. Now let's check what happened to the other brand, Bruma. So in terms of Bruma, maybe we can start the same way we did here. We'll mention the markup after. So when you look at the gross profit for Bruma, so gross profit for Bruma increased also from 2,540,000 to 3,027,000. Okay, so that's from 2,540,000. Okay, we'll mention that now. Gross profit increased from 2,540,000. Let me just see, to 3 million to 3,027,500. Now let's also talk about the markup. So if you look at their markup, you'll realize that their markup was increased from 50% to 70%. So we can say here markup was increased from 50% to 70%. Okay, and then stock turnover rate, we need to check whether it increased or decreased. So our stock turnover rate here, it shows that it moved from 10.2 times to 3.1 times. So how they sell actually decreased. So it moved from 10.2 times. Remember, it makes sense because they increased the price. So obviously people will buy less. So it moved from 10.2 times to 3.1 times. It has decreased. So stock turnover rate decreased from 10.2 times to 3.1 times. From 10.2 times to 3.1 times. Okay, then we've answered this problem solving question. Next one, they're saying if the directors go ahead with the lychee phones and order a lot more in the future and sell it at a markup of 50% on cost, how could this impact on the sales of Clio and Bruma? Explain by quoting figures to support your answer. Okay, so firstly, when we look at the information, we need to check what is the profit that they are going to sell we need to check how much are they going to sell them for, and then what is the profit that they are going to make. So in terms of sales, we are going to firstly look at our sales, try to calculate our sales, our cost of sales, and then we get gross profit. So remember, they spoke about we have the cost of sales here, because remember we identified that it's going to cost 6.5. So if you say 6.5 times 6.5 multiplied by 300, it will give you 1,950,000. So our cost of sales in this case will be 1,950,000. Remember, we got it from question 1. And then our markup, we need to say 1,950,000 multiplied by 140 over 100. It will give us our sales. Okay, so obviously when we say 1,950,000 multiplied by 140 divided by 100 is going to give us 2,730,000. So they will make a gross profit if you look at this. So it means the gross profit will be 2,730,000 minus 1,950,000, and it gives us 780,000. So if you check, they are going to make a gross profit of 780,000 only, right? So they will make a gross profit of 780,000 on a lychee. And then also, when we look at this, there's a possibility that there could be a decline in sales of Bruma and of Clio and Bruma. Remember, when there's a new product, customers eventually they'll want to test it. For example, right now, in the past, we didn't know about brands like brands like your Jetor, your Beijings, and all that. But right now, if you go around, maybe if you go to town, you will see that people are starting to now buy those cars instead of buying the ones that they used to be familiar with. You understand? So this definitely, if there's an introduction of a new product, eventually it affects the gross profit of the ones that are known. Okay, so by doing this, guys, we have answered this question, and then you were supposed to finish within 23 minutes, but obviously for me, because I'm explaining, it took a little bit long. I think 7 minutes or extra, or 5, I think about 5 minutes extra. So if you want us to help you with accounting, you're more than welcome to call us on 073 036 3208, and then our lessons are just from 500. Okay, thank you so much, guys. I hope that you have enjoyed this lesson. May God richly bless you. Shalom.